Things first, I've got a new racing dad in your midst. Got little Lily a Red Bull baby girl yet?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's great news for Max and Kelly, and for their family. It's great. It's really a big thing becoming a father, and Max is super proud, and rightly so.
We talk often about wanting, and there's so many championships to get a credible female Formula One racer. Has she just been born?
Well, look, I mean, I've been getting into horses over the last few years, and when you look at the bloodlines, that's what it's all about. And you look at the DNA of like a Verstappen and a Piquet. I mean, there's 7 world championships between them. It might not be a bad thing.
Not forgetting Max's mum as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's you're absolutely right.
There you go. That's the new one for the Red Bull Young Driver Programme. Dr. Marco, take under the wing. With regards to that session, with regards to this weekend, I think it's going to be a tight one.
I think so. I mean, it's hot, it's tough. I mean, the curbs look pretty brutal now with these cars. I think everybody's running so stiff that you see the cars, really being quite aggressive over the curbs. And of course, then degradation in the race is a track you can overtake at. And of course, a sprint weekend as well with plenty of points on hand. So anything can happen.
Do you like sprint weekend generally? Does it put the team under too much stress?
It comes in waves. I mean, you have this mad Friday, and then obviously the sprint race in the morning, and then that's the first time you then get to change the car again for qualifying, and then suddenly you're back to normality in the build-up to a Grand Prix. So it's just different. I think everybody's just adapted to the challenge that a sprint brings, but it's certainly pretty intense for the engineering team.
Quick one on Yuki. Obviously, he had a bit of testing at Silverstone. Yep. When we heard him in the press conference, it wasn't like he was saying this is going to dramatically change where I'm at. But how useful do you think it proved from a team perspective?
I think it's just more seat time, him getting used to the engineering, the way that the team works and so on. I think he's doing a nice job, and he's brought a really positive energy into the team. He's a character. He's offering some really useful feedback as well. Which is giving a good direction.
Do you think he's better mentally able to cope with having Max across the garage, got more experience, and is he in the right mindset for that? Yeah,
I think he's in his 5th year, and so he's done quite a few races now. He understands how it works, and what I've noticed with him, he's not obsessing what Max is doing. He's just focusing on his own setup with his engineer, and not trying to mirror what's going on the other side of the garage, which I think is the right approach.
You must be happy though to see what Isaac Hadjar come out the box. He's looked pretty quick, hasn't he?
I think he's exceeded all of our expectations. I mean, he's looked really very impressive so far this season, and particularly at tracks he's not been to. He's very little mileage in a Grand Prix car at all. So and he's taken to it like a duck to water. So he's been very impressive so far.
Yeah, the team they seem super impressed that he's the real deal. I mean, obviously had a dramatic start in Australia, didn't he? But I, like you say, there's a lot of feedback coming through to the media as well.
Yeah, he's very together. I mean, I think this crop of juniors that are coming in now, you can see they're just ready to adapt to Formula One, and they're full of confidence, they're full of energy, and Isaac has driven brilliantly, I think, so far this year at pretty much all new circuits to him.
Can I ask what happened with the F1 Commission? Obviously, there was a meeting about the engines. We had what happened in Bahrain, and then it looks like it's kind of been kicked down the road a little bit. What happened in there?
Well, look, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the commission itself, but there's a couple of things going on. There's a discussion about what should the engine for the future of Formula One be, but that's 2, 3, 4 years away. And then there's a question of tidying up the current regulations. And the FIA have put on the table, I think they finally had a good look at these regs, and they're seeing that next year there could be a huge amount of lift and coasting, during the course of a Grand Prix, and that's going to drive the drivers mad. The car's obviously going to have DRS open at all times, so there's going to be not the overtaking effect that you would see. And so they tabled a proposal where we leave all the technical specification the same, but we would just reduce the battery energy in the race so that you effectively have a push to pass. So I think it has merit, and I think in the bigger picture of Formula One, I think it's definitely worth consideration. It doesn't change the spec, it doesn't change the maximum power of these engines. It's just when the deployment is.
But you need a super majority to get that through, and a lot of the manufacturers are baked in on what they want to do next year. Nothing's going to change, is it?
I think that it's you're right, you need a supermajority, but I think sometimes you've got to look at the interest of the sport, and I think that we all believe that we've got good power units for next year. I think that what we just want to avoid is we're going to have lift and coasting in qualifying at some races next year. I think to have it to such a degree in the race, particularly at certain circuits, it will be particularly bad. I think it's well worth a look at because, you know, for sure it's going to be a factor, and without effectively DRS being available next year, you know, with very low downforce on the straights as we're trying to recharge these batteries, you know, would it be a bad thing to have a push to pass?
But it was inevitable, wasn't it? You get rid of the H out of the turbo, you put a bigger battery on. There's no front axle regeneration like there is on some road cars and Le Mans cars, for example. We were never going to be able to generate enough electricity. How has it got this far?
Well, we had these discussions 2 years ago.
One OEM, right?
Yes, of the power unit manufacturers.
Yeah, power unit manufacturers. Yeah. Okay, can I just point your attention to something that we spotted on the pit wall that I just want to... I mean, is he at it again, Zak Brown? Can we just bring up this picture?
What's he got there? Tyre water.
Tyre water. It's very hot out there, but yeah.
We'll send him a Red Bull down if he needs some energizing.
Talking of F1 being in a good place, just announced today, Formula One's announced this is going to be on the calendar until 2041.
Unbelievable.
If I'm the right side of the grass, I'll be 82 watching it from home.
Yeah.
Will you be here?
Well, look, I mean, 2041, I can't even imagine, you know, how far away is that? That's an insane amount of time. But, look, it's great. And I think, you know, Formula One really struggled in America a few years ago. Now we're here with 3 Grand Prix.
Yes, touche. There are going to be a few frustrated drivers out there, Danica, not getting that quick lap in.
Yeah, with only having that session to really get your race running in and then do your qualifying run with the soft tires at the end. And qualifying is going to be important. It's a tough track to pass at. There's 2 of them. There's a sprint race and the race. And then, of course, as Anthony pointed out, the traffic that's happening out there, I anticipate that might get worse with them obviously talking about how much they might be having to slow down to cool the tires off because softer compound this year. I mean, qualifying could be interesting.
Actually, Martin, we were talking about this in the office, weren't we? There's a lot of talk at the moment that this is increasingly becoming a dirty air championship and that the emphasis is moving more towards Saturday on a regular weekend, but also on a sprint weekend into sprint qualifying.
Bound to happen because they've loaded the cars up with more and more downforce, made them work better, and that means you send more turbulent air out the back. But especially on a street circuit type setup, as this is, it's very much like Jeddah actually, in that it's got the unyielding walls, but it's very high speed at the same time. You do, and Alex Albon was telling us this, you kind of get a flow around the circuit, but you want to be a long way behind the car in front of you when you're leaning on all the aerodynamic grip you can find. And, you know, these regulations were designed to help the cars follow, but the teams will always, when you give some of the finest engineering minds in the world and aerodynamicists in the world hundreds of millions of pounds to make a Formula One car go faster, it will, and it will generate more drag, more turbulence.
But this is the good thing about the sprint weekends. When you get something like that, yes, it's unfortunate for Ollie and for those that didn't get their quick laps in. We've got another element of jeopardy thrown into the equation in that there is a paucity of information. Yeah.
More information, but yet, you know, less changes with the car. As Christian pointed out, we'll finally get to change the car again tomorrow, so after the sprint race. So in some ways it's good because you get some really, like, you get race action and you really know what happens when you push the car at that level, but you don't get all the tries. So, you know, that can really hurt people, but it can also maybe help. And maybe this is where Lewis will come through and have a better weekend with less changes, might pay off again. But generally speaking, it's usually worse to have less changes in the race weekend.
Okay, there we go. F1 Academy, second practice follows from 8:15. Then we'll be back from 9:05.